reason we're here is because the Federal Reserve is a private banking cartel, right? I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but we see we have some people in the back that maybe don't know what we're here about. Danny. I'm Danny Panzella, for those of you who don't know. Not that that's important. So, the Federal Reserve Bank is a group of private banks. Their shareholders include Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all the giant mega banks that everybody knows. They are shareholders in the Fed, which acts as the central bank for the United States. It is a private bank, regardless of what anybody tells you. It is not a conspiracy theory. The Fed admits it. Bloomberg and others have sued the Fed to release documents via FOIA request, and the bank argues we don't have to abide by FOIA requests because we are a private bank. FOIA requests are only applicable to government agencies. So the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve is actually a federal agency, and it is supposed to regulate the Fed. Obviously, we know they stack it with executives from the member banks, JP Morgan, Goldman, and all these. So there actually is not any regulation. The foxes have the key to the henhouse. Many of us are aware of the destructive policies of the Fed, the constant devaluation of the currency, which causes inflation, which is a hidden tax on the working class, on working people. The price of commodities just keeps going up and up and up. Bread, milk, food has gone up about 25%, I believe, in the past year. I know that was the statistic that came out a few months ago. And that's largely due to inflation. And what inflation does is it just compounds more and more of a tax on the economy, because now inflation goes up, the price of fuel goes up. Once the price of fuel and materials goes up, the price of everything goes up. That's it. So it affects distribution networks, which affects everything. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how to end the Fed. I kind of have a two-pronged theory of how to do this. I call it 1 foot in the matrix and 1 foot out. So the 1 foot in the matrix is keeping on top of your elected officials. Contact them constantly. Make sure that they're supporting Audit the Fed initiatives. And if we can get End the Fed initiatives, those as well. But let's start with an audit. Because if we could get a real audit of the Fed, the American people will start to support the idea that we need to get away from this system, that it is the heart of crony capitalism, that it does not, there's nothing free market about the United States economy. It is a controlled, centrally planned economy by a few bankers. And this is where they hang out. This is the head of the snake, as it were. So, be on your elected officials. I confront mine. Many of you have seen my YouTube videos, so you've seen me confront my officials, and that'll give you some ideas on how to do it. They need to be supporting these initiatives. There's no reason why any elected official should say no to an initiative to compel transparency. Transparency is one of or is supposed to be one of the main principles of a democratic republic, right? We the people have the right to know everything. It's about consent of the governed. And how can we give consent if we don't know what's going on? There's no, so that's one way to do it. So call them, write them letters, email them. Even better, show up at their office, demand meetings, bring with you information. There's plenty of reports, Mises.org, there's plenty of free market think tanks that you can download articles and reports and policy recommendations that you can then bring to your elected officials. Now let me tell you, I've met with pretty much all of my officials that are local, and many of them have no idea what the Fed is or what it does. Their concept of it is very poor. And these are the people that we've elected to represent us. And we know more. The people in this crowd know more than all of them put together. And it's sad and it's ridiculous, but that's exactly how they've designed the system, is to make it so complicated, or to attempt to make it so complicated that people don't think they can understand, so they don't even bother. And that includes elected people. The other way, the 1 foot out of the matrix approach is stop using the Federal Reserve note. Stop using the US dollar. Use commodities, trade, use silver or gold, barter your skills. There are barter networks popping up all over the country where you don't have to pay in a currency. If you're a web designer, you can go to a local business and say, hey, I want to trade my skills for whatever product they're offering. And it sounds kind of funny, but when you explain to people that you're going to get more value, you're not giving your value to the Federal Reserve who then gives you back less value. You've got the full value of your skill when you're bartering, rather than letting them skim off the top, the government and the Fed skim off the top. So, awesome. I mean, really, that encompasses the whole thing. Barter really is the best way to avoid. First of all, you avoid paying taxes, and second of all, you avoid racking up more debt by using the note, because every dollar printed is $1 plus interest. I think everybody knows that, right?
Dee, can you speak to QE3?
Yeah. Well, QE3, the Fed has just pumped in another, what was it? It's going to be $30 billion a month. They're going to be pumping in 40 billion a month into the economy. I mean, that's just going to devalue the currency more. So now we will have a consistent devaluation every single month, and we're headed to a place where I can't see it going much longer, where we become a third world country. Another 10, 20 years down the road, and that's it. I mean, the currency is going to be completely, I mean, it may not be as bad as Zimbabwe, but it's going to be pretty bad. And what that is going to do is give the government the opportunity to nationalize more and more industries. As industries start to fail, especially things like the medical industry, Obamacare, I believe, I've been writing about Obamacare since the very beginning, and I believe the real point of Obamacare is to bankrupt the medical industry, to bankrupt small doctors, so only the mega corporations are left. They suck up all that market share, and those megacorps are owned by the same banks that own the Federal Reserve. So this is just a centralization of economic power, and this really is the throne. I call it the marriage altar, where government and the mega bank monopoly interests have joined. And ending the Fed is giving them a divorce. If we can separate those powers, then we the people have a fighting chance of having some kind of fair and equal economic system. Really, that's what the free market is. The free market is the ultimate equality. If you're not producing, if you don't work, you're not going to eat. And these guys, they're leveraging our money, and they're eating our economic power. Really, they've taken it away from us. So we need to take it back. So I hope that everybody will implement some sort of one of those methods, and I'm sure there's many others that I haven't thought of.
Mountain Hours.
Where are you on?
Mountain Hours. That's a barter network. That's a great idea.
Vic, where are you restoring Glass-Steagall?
Bitcoin.
Where are you restoring?
I mean, I don't. Glass-Steagall could be, the restoration of Glass-Steagall could be an okay temporary measure. Obviously I don't ever agree with giving the government more power, especially when these thugs own the government. It could be a good temporary measure. The problem is Glass-Steagall existed, and the way Glass-Steagall was repealed was because Citibank, I believe it was Citicorp, decided to merge with I don't remember which banks. They basically said, screw Glass-Steagall, screw the Justice Department, we're going to do it. And they merged. I don't remember if it was JP and Chase.
It was after Clinton said, why doesn't Wall Street like you? Well, we'll like you.
The point is that the banks said, screw the law, we're going to do what we want to do, and challenge the government to stop us, knowing full well that they own the government and the government wasn't going to stop them. So then they end up repealing Glass-Steagall. So if we reinstituted it, maybe it would have some short term, but the truth is that they would keep it tied up in court. It would never really go anywhere. So I don't really believe that's a place to really put a lot of effort. I think better is to educate people on what the Fed is, and at some point there's going to be a tipping point where they just won't be able to do it anymore. They won't be able to continue to rob us.
How about the benefits are private, but the consequences they public.
Right. I mean, that's what the Fed. That's what the purpose of the Fed is: to socialize loss,
Right.
and then they privatize gain offshore, most of it, so they're not even paying taxes. They're not even paying into the system that they're taking advantage of. So they're privatizing their profits offshore, and then they're socializing the loss. So the rest of us are paying, and future generations. They've leveraged the wealth of future generations and the labor of future generations.
Talk about wham, bam, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't want to bloviate for too long. I think basically I've made my point, and so.
And the Fed.
And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And the Fed. And Ron Moore, and he wants to talk a little bit about Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate for president, and he wants to appeal to you about why you should vote for Gary Johnson.
Okay, well, I actually want to talk about the Liberty Movement and bringing the Liberty Movement forward, and we'll bring that around to Gary Johnson in a minute. But Gary Johnson's just a tool. Gary Johnson's just a mechanism. The Liberty Movement is what we have to be working for. Number one, Danny's exactly right with his one foot in, 1 foot out. All of this business about agorism and going off the grid and not using FRNs, absolutely correct. There's many things we need to do that aren't within electoral politics. But I think we also need to stay within electoral politics, not because we're going to get elected very soon, but because it's the best opportunity we have for education. And this is all about education. And if you doubt that for a minute, Ron Paul did not get elected outside of Texas, right? But look at what he did to educate people, going from 2008 to 2012, taking it from a fringe movement to something that everybody knows about and everybody's talking about. So if you think that electoral politics can't be a tool for educating, just look at the example of Ron Paul. And if we're going to have 1 foot into electoral politics, the next thing we have to do is the debates. We are not going to get the audience we need unless we're in the debates. You are not going to have a candidate up there with 2 candidates in the debate bringing up the legal tender laws and bringing up ending the Fed and bringing up nominating someone else to run the Fed unless we have all the candidates that have a mathematical chance of winning in the Electoral College. And that means Gary Johnson and the Green Jill Stein. Can you imagine Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, and the Green Jill Stein debating the Federal Reserve in front of 60 million people watching the debates? Now we're going to start to learn something. That's going to be fun. But they won't be in the debates because the Presidential Debate Commission is the same as the Fed Board of Governors. It's owned by the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a private organization that makes their own decisions. They're going to override the will of hundreds of thousands of American voters who signed petitions to get those candidates on the ballot, and 2 guys are going to make that decision. It can't be allowed to happen. If that happens, you know, this country is based on government by consent. We fought a revolution over that. If that happens, withdraw your consent. Thank you.
All right. Is Luke here? Luke Radowski, are you here yet? No. You want to do another song?
Sure.
Yes.
My first time meeting.